Avengers Infinity War is said to be the beginning of the end for the overarching mega-narrative that's comprised the Marvel Cinematic Universe up to this point, a sprawling continuum that sometimes directly, sometimes more loosely, comprises not only the events depicted in the feature films, network TV, and Netflix streaming series, but also the events of each property's respective backstories and mythologies. Collectively, it might well be the biggest and certainly most successful planned multimedia narrative experiment ever undertaken. Does it all actually fit together? Kinda, yeah. Does it all actually make sense? I mean, this raccoon from space can talk, these magical ninjas are trying to gentrify Manhattan because there's a dead dragon underneath it, I think. This giant bulldog can teleport you to the moon, and this big swole raisin guy is apparently the most dangerous thing in the whole universe, so, like, define sense.
Tell me his name again.
In any case, before it's time to call it a wrap on the first decade of the superhero saga that changed the movie business forever, here's everything important that happened that we know of so far in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And before anyone brings it up, yes, I also wish Lewis from Ant-Man was narrating this instead of me. Okay, so right around the beginning of time, basically, there's a big cosmic event out in space that makes these magic rocks called Infinity Stones. There's 6 of them, they're all supposed to do different stuff, but they mostly do whatever the script says they do, and they've been all over the universe, and everyone wants them just because it's not really important, they just do. Also out in space is a bunch of dudes who all want to rule the universe. This big beefy purple dude called Thanos who really wants all those stones so he can put them all in a big magic glove because it'll let him basically punch the universe to death or something, it's not really clear yet. This living planet monster called Ego that uses projections of himself to make babies on lots of different planets so he can take over the universe himself. These blue aliens called the Kree Empire who are at war with the Nova Empire, and these human-looking but super strong and basically immortal Renaissance fair guys called Asgardians ruled by Odin, who's also trying to conquer everything with his daughter Hela. So the Kree go to Earth to do genetic engineering on cavemen to make super soldiers called Inhumans, who then rebel and kick them out, but one of them, called Hive, goes evil and gets exiled to another planet, but a bunch of regular humans decide Hive was a god and start a scary-ass religion around him called Hydra. And then like half the other Inhumans go and hide in an invisible city on the moon, but whatever, nobody really cares about them. Anyway, then a meteor made of this basically magic metal called vibranium hits Africa, creating the hidden civilization of Wakanda, whose kings adopt the mantle of Black Panther, which nobody really needs explained because that movie made like $1 billion already, which means you probably already saw it. Oh, but then that guy Odin decides he wants to be good, so he sends the evil daughter away, has a new kid named Thor, adopts the abandoned son of one of his enemies named Loki, and saves ancient Norway from monsters so they think the Asgardians are gods, and Odin asks them to hide an infinity stone called the Tesseract. There's also this place in China called Kunlun that learned how to do magic kung fu and kicks out all the bad magic kung fu people to form a ninja death cult called the Hand. And nearby there, I think there's a different place called Kamertage where there's a lady called the Ancient One who starts basically growing up Hogwarts because she's got one of those infinity stones herself, and I think that covers it, yeah. Okay, so Hydra becomes part of the Nazis because evil. One of them turns into the Red Skull and finds the Tesseract, the other finds a dead Kree and the Kree thingy, and discovers that there's still some Inhumans around, and now they're just regular people unless they touch this stuff called Terrigen. And look, the Red Skull is actually way more important at this point. So the US Army teams up with Agent Carter and super science guy Howard Stark to turn this trippy guy into Captain America, who uses a shield made of that magic Wakanda metal to beat the Red Skull, but his best friend Bucky gets killed and Cap has to sacrifice himself to save the world, even though he just finally almost hooked up with Agent Carter and is actually super sad. So Agent Carter captures the other Nazi Hydra guy and all his Kree stuff, fights the bad guys in New York and Hollywood, and even a prototype of this new Russian lady soldier called Black Widow, but she can't get credit because it's the 50s and sexism, so she and Howard Stark decide to start like an international superhero version of the CIA called S.H.I.E.L.D. But they make this ex-Hydra guy help them called Zola, and he's actually still Hydra, and even when he dies and they put his brain in a computer, he pretty much starts a Hydra sleeper cell inside S.H.I.E.L.D., but nobody knows that yet. So partly because of that, and partly just because S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of drops the ball for a bunch of the 20th century. Like, they really kind of suck at their jobs, especially in the 80s and 90s. The other Nazi Hydra guy gets out of prison, changes his name to Whitehall, and he tortures an Inhuman woman and steals her healing powers to make himself young, which makes her go crazy, and her human husband goes crazy with her and makes chemicals to turn himself into a criminal called Mr. High, and all S.H.I.E.L.D. can do is hide their baby daughter in the foster system. The Hand is pulling all kinds of crap in New York, including trying to assassinate the owners of Rand Enterprise with a fake plane crash, but instead orphaning Rand's youngest son Danny, who winds up in Kunlun and becomes a guardian figure called Iron Fist. There's a mad scientist who gives bulletproof skin to a wrongly convicted felon named Luke Cage, a different mad scientist gives super strength to an orphan girl named Jessica Jones, there's this guy Kilgrave who can mind control people into doing murders for him, a space pirate named Yondu straight up abducts a kid named Peter Quill because he's one of Ego's half-alien super god offspring. One of the only active actual superheroes, Hank Pym, aka the Ant-Man, tells them to piss off and retires because his wife got killed, and the brother of the King of Wakanda tries to smuggle vibranium weapons out to arm black militant revolutionaries in the US, and when they confront each other about it, the King, aka Black Panther, ends up having to kill the brother, leaving his son orphaned in downtown Oakland. And S.H.I.E.L.D. basically doesn't do anything about any of this, and oh yeah, Captain America's friend Bucky actually still alive because Zola turned him into a cyborg called the Winter Soldier and used him to kill Howard Stark, making an orphan of his genius son Tony, who grows up and decides the company should make weapons and stuff because he's now kind of a douchebag. Oh, and the government also never stopped trying to make another Captain America, and one of the failed experiments turned Bruce Banner into the Incredible Hulk. So Tony Stark gets captured by terrorists sometime after 9/11, and he has to make a robot suit to escape, and he thinks weapons are bad now, so he turns himself into Iron Man. So Nick Fury and Agent Coulson show up and tell him S.H.I.E.L.D. wants all the other superheroes and him to be on a team, but so far it's just him, maybe the Hulk and Captain America, who they just found still alive but frozen in some ice. Also, S.H.I.E.L.D. has the Tesseract because Howard Stark found it back in the day, and the Hulk reappeared because General Ross used more bootleg Captain America potions to make an evil Hulk called Abomination, and somehow that ends up with Bruce Banner looking like the guy from Zodiac instead of the guy from Fight Club. Odin decides that Thor should be the king of Asgard now, but Loki wants to be king instead, so he manipulates Thor into being stupid, so Odin takes his powers away and drops him on Earth where he can't have his magic hammer back until he learns not to be a douchebag. He does, and he stops Loki, and they think Loki is dead, but actually Loki hooked up with Thanos, who gives him a mind control spear and an army of mooks, and tells him to go to get the Tesseract, so S.H.I.E.L.D. puts Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, Black Widow, and Hawkeye together into the Avengers to fight him, and it's awesome. Except Loki kills Agent Coulson, and it's sad. except it's not that sad because he doesn't stay dead. They use crazy alien super science based on that dead Kree agent Carter took from Hydra back in the day and bring him back to life to lead a special top secret version of S.H.I.E.L.D. that not even the Avengers know about, which is important because now the whole world is going nuts. All parts of New York that got destroyed by Loki's invasion creates a power vacuum that emboldens crime syndicates run by the Kingpin, Cottonmouth, and others, including the Hand, who are digging a giant hole, I think, which in turn gives rise to street-level vigilantes like Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist when he eventually decides to come back home and do stuff. Oh, also there's a guy called the Punisher who has the power to have all the guns. Also, at some point in this general time frame, Peter Parker becomes Spider-Man, and a motorcyclist presumably named Johnny Blaze becomes Ghost Rider, but we don't really know how any of it actually happened or when. Iron Man fights a fake terrorist and gets all paranoid because now he knows there's aliens and stuff. Thor has to team up with Loki to fight the Dark Elves, but Loki fakes his death and disguises himself as Odin to take over Asgard while Thor is doing Avengers stuff. And Captain America makes a friend called the Falcon and finds out that the Winter Soldier and Secret Hydra guys inside S.H.I.E.L.D. are trying to take over the world, and the only way to stop them is to basically blow S.H.I.E.L.D. the hell up, which screws stuff up for Coulson's secret team because now they're the only S.H.I.E.L.D. left. But one of their guys was actually Hydra, and the lady hacker agent Skye almost gets killed, so they use that alien juice that got Coulson back on her, and it works suspiciously well because she's actually the Inhuman daughter of Mr. Hyde and the Inhuman lady Whitehall Court. And speaking of Whitehall, one of his underlings, Von Strucker, gets a hold of the mind control sphere Thanos gave to Loki when S.H.I.E.L.D. went down and took it to Sokovia, where he uses it to turn two orphan twins into Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. Wow, there's a lot of orphans in this.
He's adopted.
Speaking of Thanos, he sends a Kree lackey, Ronan the Accuser, to a dead planet to get another one of the Infinity Stones, but it gets grabbed up by the now technically grown-up Peter Quill, the little kid Yondu abducted from Earth in the 80s, because Yondu found out that ego is bad and keeps killing his kids when he finds them, so instead he raised Peter as a space pirate who now calls himself Star-Lord, and teams up with Rocket Raccoon, Groot, Drax the Destroyer, Thanos' resentful adopted daughter Gamora to form the Guardians of the Galaxy. The Avengers get back together to stop Von Strucker and what's left of Hydra, and it turns out Loki's mind control thingy had an Infinity Stone in it, which is kind of dumb, but whatever, because Iron Man is still paranoid about aliens blowing up the world. He tries to use it to make a good version of Skynet called Ultron to replace the Avengers, but Ultron decides it'd rather be like the Skynet version of Skynet and goes all Terminator on them instead. The Avengers stop him by turning Scarlet Witch good and making a good guy robot called Vision, who I think has an Infinity Stone for like a brain or something, but Quicksilver still gets killed and Sokovia gets destroyed, and the only reason all its people don't die is because Agent Coulson's secret S.H.I.E.L.D. managed to send the last operational helicarrier to go airlift people, but lots of them got killed anyway, including the family of this guy named Zemo, but we'll come back to that, and also the Hulk shoots himself into space so he won't hurt people anymore, and it's sad. Oh, and speaking of Agent Coulson, Skye finds out her real name is Daisy Johnson and gets exposed to Terrigen, which gives her Inhuman earthquake power, so she decides her name is Quake now, and she tries to join up with her family, but her mom's still crazy from the torturing and tries to start a war between humans and Inhumans a la Magneto, which is thwarted and accidentally contaminates the world's supply of fish oil supplements. Just go with it. With Terrigen, which causes people all over the world who didn't even know they were Inhumans to get powers, and now S.H.I.E.L.D. has to mop all that shit up, and one of them gets out to that planet that the prehistoric Inhumans sent Hive to, and Hive does end up coming back to Earth, which you'd think would be a big deal because he's basically Hydra God, but it's kind of not. And then the other Inhumans who are still up on the moon are looking down like, should we get involved in this at some point? And since Hydra's back in the open now, they try to buy new weaponized versions of Hank Pym's Ant-Man technology from Yellow Jacket, who took over his company, so Pym hires a new guy named Scott Lang to be the new Ant-Man and stop him, and Scott discovers you can use the shrinking technology to shrink between dimensions, which means Hank's wife maybe isn't dead, and also his daughter Hope can be the Wasp now. The government decides the Ultron mess means the Avengers should be controlled by the military and General Ross, which Iron Man now agrees with because overcompensating guilt complex with Captain America doesn't because freedom. The Avengers split up over this, but then Zemo frames Bucky for a terrorist bombing, and Iron Man's team fights Cap's team over whether to protect him or find out what Zemo's up to, but the bombing killed the King of Wakanda, so his son T'Challa becomes the new Black Panther and joins Iron Man's team along with Spider-Man, while Ant-Man helps Cap, but Zemo punks them in the end because he doesn't really have a villain plan. He just wanted to reveal to Iron Man that Winter Soldier killed his parents to break the Avengers up permanently, which works, actually. The bad guy wins that one. Then this surgeon named Stephen Strange hurts his hands and goes to Kamar-Taj to see the Ancient One will fix them, but instead he decides to become a wizard because, you know, his name is already Doctor Strange. Spider-Man fights a guy called the Vulture and decides maybe he's not grown up enough to join the Avengers yet. Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Iron Fist team up as the Defenders to stop the Hand, and Daredevil's evil ninja ex-girlfriend Elektra from destroying the city. Agent Coulson's secret S.H.I.E.L.D. team teamed up with a second Ghost Rider who inherits his power from Johnny Blaze to destroy a virtual reality world created by an evil lady robot when she learns to use the magic weaving spells from Doctor Strange. Then they get zapped off to the future, but that story isn't actually over yet, so whatever. Also, there was an attempted coup against the Moon Inhumans, and the royal family had to mess around in Hawaii for a while, and it doesn't really amount to much, so who cares? Over in Wakanda, the orphan nephew of the previous Black Panther has grown up into Killmonger and shows up and attempts to seize the throne and almost does, but the good guys win, and it was awesome, and again, Black Panther is like the biggest Marvel movie ever. You don't need to have all this repeated, and oh, the Wakandans fixed Bucky, and his name is White Wolf now because reasons. Out in space, the Guardians met, battled, and defeated Ego. Thor found out about Loki replacing Odin, but then Odin died anyway, which released Hela, who tried to destroy Asgard, broke Thor's hammer, and sent them to Sakaar, where they found the Hulk had become a gladiator for the Grandmaster, and they team up with him and the last of the Valkyries to defeat Hela, but the only way to do that is to basically let the apocalypse happen and destroy the place while rescuing all the people and going out into space to find a new home. But then a giant spaceship rolls up on them, and that's bad because it seemed like Loki took the Tesseract with them when they left. And I think that's actually where we are now, yeah.